I never thought my life would turn into such a mess. My name's Carrie, and this is the story of how I went from being a happy newlywed to fighting for my career and my life. It all started when I met Tom at Innovatech, the tech company where we both began our careers. I was 25, fresh out of college with a business degree, eager to prove myself in the corporate world. Tom was 27, with a background in computer science and a cocky smile that made my heart skip a beat. At first, we were rivals. We'd both joined the marketing department as junior analysts, and we were constantly trying to outdo each other. I'd stay late to finish a project, only to find Tom had beat me to it. He'd come up with a clever campaign idea, and I'd one-up him with an even better one. Our boss, Mr. Johnson, seemed amused by our rivalry. "You two are like cats and dogs," he'd say, shaking his head. "But damn if you don't get results." One night, we both ended up working late on a big presentation. The office was empty except for us, and the tension was palpable. Tom looked up from his computer and caught me staring at him. "See something you like, Carrie?" he teased. I rolled my eyes. "In your dreams, Tom." He got up and walked over to my desk, leaning in close. "Maybe in yours," he whispered. I don't know who moved first, but suddenly we were kissing, all that competitive energy transformed into passion. After that night, everything changed. We started working together instead of against each other, and our combined talents made us unstoppable. We dated in secret for a few months before going public. Some of our coworkers were shocked, others said they saw it coming. Mr. Johnson just laughed and said, "Well, I guess that's one way to resolve workplace tension." Tom proposed a year later, on the rooftop of our office building where we'd shared that first kiss. We got married in a small ceremony, surrounded by friends and family. I thought I had it all, a loving husband, a promising career, and a bright future ahead. Then I got pregnant. Don't get me wrong, I was thrilled about having a baby. But as my due date approached, I started to worry about what it would mean for my career. Tom assured me everything would be fine. "You'll be back at work before you know it," he said. "And I'll be right there with you, climbing the corporate ladder." Our daughter, Emily, was born on a rainy Tuesday in April. She was perfect, 10 tiny fingers, 10 tiny toes, and a set of lungs that could wake the dead. I fell in love with her instantly, but as the weeks of my maternity leave ticked by, I found myself getting restless. I missed work. I missed adult conversation. I missed feeling like I was accomplishing something beyond keeping a tiny human alive, which, don't get me wrong, is a monumental task in itself. That's when I started helping Tom with his work. At first, it was just proofreading his reports or offering suggestions for his presentations. But soon, I was doing more and more. I'd spend Emily's nap times brainstorming ideas and creating PowerPoint slides. Tom was grateful, at least at first. "You're a lifesaver, babe," he'd say, kissing me on the cheek before heading out the door. But as time went on, he started taking my help for granted. He'd come home, grab the work I'd done, and head straight to his home office without so much as a thank you. I told myself it was fine. That I was helping our family by supporting Tom's career. That soon, I'd be back at work myself, and things would go back to normal. The day Tom got promoted to department head was the day I realized just how much our relationship had changed. I'd spent weeks helping him prepare for the big presentation that ultimately landed him the job. I'd written most of his speech, created his slides, and even came up with the innovative marketing strategy he presented. When he called to tell me the news, I felt proud of my work. "I got it, Carrie. I'm the new head of marketing." Tom's voice was bursting with excitement. "That's fantastic, honey." "I'm so proud of you," I said, bouncing Emily on my hip. "We should celebrate tonight. I could make your favorite dinner, or maybe we could go out." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Oh, actually, I'm going out with the guys from work to celebrate. You understand, right? It's kind of a work thing." The line went dead before I could respond. I looked at Emily, who was happily gumming her stuffed elephant. Looks like it's just you and me tonight, kiddo, I sighed. As if on cue, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find my mother-in-law, Margaret, standing there with her usual pinched expression. "Carrie, dear. I thought I'd stop by to see my granddaughter," she said, pushing past me into the apartment. Margaret worked as a pharmacist and had a habit of dropping by unannounced, always under the guise of visiting Emily. But I knew better. Her real purpose was to scrutinize my housekeeping skills and offer unsolicited advice on child rearing. Margaret looked around the living room, running a finger along a shelf. My, dust already? I thought being home all day would give you plenty of time to keep the place tidy. I bit back a retort. It wasn't worth the argument. Instead, I handed Emily to her and escaped to the kitchen under the pretense of making coffee. As I waited for the coffee to brew, I could hear Margaret cooing to Emily in the living room. "Who's Grandma's little angel?" "Yes, you are." "Oh, if only your mommy took as good care of the house as she does you. But don't worry, Grandma's here to help." I gripped the kitchen counter, taking deep breaths. This was my life now. Stuck at home, my achievements ignored, judged by my mother-in-law, while Tom celebrated his success that I had helped create. The weeks that followed were much the same. I continued to help Tom with his work, now more than ever as he adjusted to his new role. But the more I helped, the more he seemed to take it for granted. One night, as I was up late finishing a report for him, Tom stumbled in, slightly drunk from another work event. "Hey, babe. That report done yet?" he slurred, loosening his tie. I looked up from the laptop, exhaustion and frustration evident on my face. "Almost. I just need to." Great, he interrupted, not even looking at me. "Email it to me when you're done. I need it first thing in the morning." As he stumbled off to bed, I felt something inside me snap. I was more than just a housewife. More than just a mother. I was a talented professional, and I was letting my skills go to waste. The company party was supposed to be my grand re-entry into the professional world. I had been looking forward to it for weeks, eager to reconnect with my colleagues. But Tom had other ideas. "I don't think you should come," he said casually over breakfast, not even looking up from his phone. "It's just, you've been out of the loop for a while. It might be awkward. Plus, someone needs to watch Emily." I was about to argue when my phone rang. To my surprise, it was Mr. Johnson, the company director. "Carrie," his booming voice came through the speaker. "It's been too long. Listen, I'm calling to personally invite you to the company party this weekend. We've all missed you around here, and I won't take no for an answer." I couldn't help but smile, shooting a triumphant look at Tom. "I'd love to come, Mr. Johnson. Thank you for the invitation." The night of the party, I felt a mix of excitement and nervousness as we walked into the venue. I had spent hours getting ready, choosing a sleek black dress that made me feel confident and professional. As soon as we entered, I was swarmed by my old colleagues. "Carrie! Oh my God, it's so good to see you. We've missed you so much. When are you coming back? The place isn't the same without you." Their warm welcome brought tears to my eyes. Mr. Johnson made his way through the crowd, grinning widely. "Carrie, there you are. I was starting to think Tom was keeping you all to himself." Before I could answer, he continued, "You know, while you've been away, Tom here has been doing a fantastic job. His ideas have helped us break into new markets. We're lucky to have him." I turned to Tom, expecting him to mention my contributions. After all, many of his ideas had actually been mine. But Tom just nodded and smiled, basking in the praise. "Thank you, sir. I've been working hard," he said, not even glancing in my direction. I felt a cold knot form in my stomach. The drive home was tense. As soon as we were in the car, I turned to Tom. "Why didn't you say anything about my help?" "Those were my ideas too, Tom." He scoffed, keeping his eyes on the road. "Come on, Carrie. I've been the one in the office, presenting those ideas, doing the actual work. You've just been helping out a bit from home. It's not the same thing. You'll be back at work soon, and then you can present your own ideas. The day I returned to work was both exhilarating and nerve-wracking. Emily had just turned 2, and leaving her at daycare felt like leaving a piece of my heart behind. But as I walked into the Innovatech office, dressed in my sharpest suit, I felt a surge of excitement I hadn't experienced in years. Within weeks, I was making waves. I proposed a revolutionary marketing strategy that caught the eye of some major potential partners. When we landed the deal, it brought in a substantial profit for the company. Mr. Johnson was thrilled. "Carrie, my dear, you haven't missed a beat," he exclaimed during a team meeting. "This is exactly the kind of forward thinking we've been missing." I couldn't help but notice Tom's face darken at the praise. He'd been distant since I'd returned to work, but I'd chalked it up to us both adjusting to our new routine. Now, I wasn't so sure. As the months flew by, I continued to excel. My innovative ideas and hard work paid off, and a year after my return, I was promoted to department head, the same position as Tom. The night I got the promotion, I was bubbling with excitement as I shared the news with Tom over dinner. "That's great," he said, his voice flat. "Don't you think you're taking on too much, though? I mean, Emily's still so young." I felt my excitement deflate. "Emily's fine, Tom. She's thriving at daycare, and my mom's been a huge help. Why can't you just be happy for me?" He pushed his plate away, his expression stormy. "Because it's not right, Carrie. I'm the man. I should be the one providing for this family, climbing the corporate ladder. You should be focusing on our home, on Emily." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Are you serious right now? This is the 21st century, Tom. We're supposed to be partners, equals. My success doesn't diminish yours." "That's easy for you to say," he snapped. "You're not the one being overshadowed by your wife." The argument escalated from there, ending with Tom storming out of the house, saying he needed to clear his head. I was left standing in our kitchen, shock and hurt warring inside me. The next day, Tom's mother Margaret showed up unannounced, her face pinched with disapproval. "Carrie," she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness, "we need to talk about this nonsense about you working. Competing with Tom. It's not right, dear. A woman shouldn't try to surpass her husband. It upsets the natural order of things." I took a deep breath, counting to 10 in my head before responding. "Margaret, I appreciate your concern, but my career is not up for discussion. Tom and I are both capable professionals, and there's room for both of us to succeed." She sked, shaking her head. "You're being selfish, Carrie. Think about what this is doing to Tom, to your family. Is your so-called career really worth all that?" Before I could respond, Emily came running in, excited to see her grandmother. Margaret scooped her up, cooing, "There's my little doctor. Still want to be like Grandma when you grow up?" I watched as Emily nodded enthusiastically, my heart sinking a little. Don't get me wrong, I had nothing against Emily becoming a doctor or pharmacist if that's what she wanted. But the thought of my daughter limiting her dreams because of outdated gender roles made me sick to my stomach. As the days passed, the tension at home continued to grow. Tom became increasingly distant and irritable. He'd come home late, barely speaking to me or Emily. When he did talk, it was often to make snide comments about my work or to suggest that I was neglecting our family. Then came the day that changed everything. Mr. Johnson called Tom and me into his office, his face serious. "I'll cut to the chase," he said, looking between us. "There's going to be a shakeup in upper management. A position is opening up, and I'm considering both of you for it." As we left Mr. Johnson's office, Tom grabbed my arm, his grip tight enough to hurt. "You need to turn it down," he hissed. "I need this promotion, Carrie. Don't you dare take this from me." As I watched him storm off, I felt a chill run down my spine. This wasn't the man I'd married. Something had changed, and I was starting to fear just how far he might go to get what he wanted. The days following Mr. Johnson's announcement were tense, to say the least. At work, Tom and I maintained a facade of professionalism, but at home, the atmosphere was toxic. Every conversation seemed to end in an argument, with Tom growing increasingly bitter and hostile. It was during this time that I started to notice changes in myself. At first, it was small things, forgetting where I'd put my keys, missing a deadline I'd carefully noted in my calendar. I chalked it up to stress and lack of sleep. After all, balancing a high-pressure job with family life wasn't easy. But as the days went on, things got worse. I found myself struggling to concentrate during meetings, my mind foggy and unfocused. I made careless mistakes, forgot important details, and struggled to keep up with conversations. One particularly bad day, I was in the middle of a presentation when my mind went completely blank. I stood there, staring at my colleagues, unable to remember what I was supposed to say next. The room fell silent, all eyes on me. I could see the concern on their faces, mixed with something else, doubt. After what felt like an eternity, Mr. Johnson gently suggested we take a break. As everyone filed out of the room, he pulled me aside. "Carrie," he said, his voice laced with concern, "is everything all right? You seem off lately." I felt tears pricking at my eyes. I don't know what's wrong with me, Mr. Johnson. I can't seem to focus, I'm forgetting things. I don't understand what's happening." He patted my shoulder sympathetically. "Maybe you're pushing yourself too hard. Why don't you take a few days off? Rest, recharge, and come back when you're feeling more like yourself." I nodded, grateful for his understanding, but also deeply frustrated with myself. As I packed up my things to head home, I caught sight of Tom watching me from across the office. For a split second, I thought I saw a smile playing at the corners of his mouth, but when I looked again, his face was impassive. At home, things weren't any better. I was constantly tired, my head pounding with a persistent ache. Even simple tasks, like making dinner or helping Emily with her preschool activities, became monumental challenges. One evening, as I was struggling to focus on a bedtime story for Emily, she looked up at me with her big, innocent eyes. "Mommy, are you sick?" she asked, her little face scrunched up with worry. Before I could respond, she jumped off the bed and ran to her toy box, returning with a plastic doctor's kit. She opened it and pulled out a little white pill, holding it out to me proudly. "Here, Mommy. This will make you feel better. Daddy gave me these special vitamins to help you." I froze, my blood running cold. "Daddy gave you, what?" Emily nodded enthusiastically. "He said you were tired and needed special vitamins. I've been putting them in your coffee every morning to help you feel better." "Did they work?" My mind was reeling. I managed to smile at Emily, telling her she was a very good helper, but inside I was in turmoil. What had Tom given our daughter? What had I been unknowingly ingesting for, how long? After putting Emily to bed, I went straight to her doctor kit and examined the vitamins. They didn't look like any vitamin I'd ever seen. With shaking hands, I collected a few of the pills and put them in a small plastic bag. The next day, I went to a private clinic. I had my blood tested and showed the doctor the pills I'd found. A few days later, I received a call that would change everything. The doctor's voice was grave as he delivered the news. "Mrs. Thompson, we found traces of a powerful psychoactive drug in your system. It's not commonly prescribed due to its severe side effects, which include cognitive impairment, memory loss, and difficulty concentrating. In large doses or with prolonged use, it can cause serious, potentially permanent damage." The revelation that Tom had been drugging me left me not just shocked, but terrified. It wasn't just my health he had been gambling with, it was my life, and potentially Emily's too. All those mornings I'd driven her to preschool, my mind foggy and reflexes dulled, we could have been in a serious accident. The thought made me sick to my stomach. Despite the overwhelming urge to confront Tom immediately, I decided to bide my time. I needed to plan this carefully, to make sure there was no way for Tom to wiggle out of this. So, I kept quiet about the blood tests and their alarming results, all while meticulously gathering evidence. I set up hidden cameras around the house, capturing footage of Tom slipping pills into my coffee. I also recorded conversations with Emily, gently coaxing her to tell me about the special vitamins Daddy had given her for me. A few days later, feeling more clear-headed than I had in weeks, I returned to work. As luck would have it, Mr. Johnson was holding a meeting that very day to discuss the new management position Tom and I had both applied for. The tension in the room was palpable as we all took our seats. Tom, looking confident and self-assured, spoke first. "Mr. Johnson, members of the board," he began, his voice smooth and practiced. "I believe I'm the clear choice for this position. My track record speaks for itself, and..." He paused, throwing a look of false concern in my direction. "Given Carrie's recent health issues, I think we can all agree that I'm better suited to handle the pressures of this role." I saw a few board members nodding in agreement, while others looked uncertain. Mr. Johnson turned to me, his brow furrowed with concern. "Carrie, do you have anything to add?" This was my moment. I stood up, my heart pounding, but my resolve firm. "Actually, I do. I'd like to address my supposed health issues." I walked to the front of the room and connected my laptop to the projector. "What I'm about to show you may come as a shock, but I assure you, it's all true." First, I displayed my blood test results on the screen, explaining the powerful drug that had been found in my system. Then, I played the audio recording of Emily innocently explaining how her daddy had given her special vitamins to put in my coffee. The room was dead silent, all eyes wide with disbelief. But I wasn't done. Finally, I played the video of Tom himself slipping pills into my morning coffee. The reaction was immediate. Gasps of shock and disgust filled the room. Mr. Johnson's face had turned pale, his eyes darting between me and Tom in disbelief. Tom, his face drained of color, stood up shakily. I really wanted this position," he stammered. "Mom got me the pills. Said they'd just make Carrie a little fuzzy, help me get ahead. I didn't mean to." His pathetic attempt at justification was met with looks of utter revulsion from everyone in the room. Mr. Johnson's voice was ice cold as he spoke. "Tom Thompson, you're fired, effective immediately." He pressed a button on the intercom. "Security, please come to the conference room." As two burly security guards entered the room, Mr. Johnson turned to me, his expression softening. "Carrie, I cannot begin to express how sorry I am for what you've endured. Your strength and resilience in the face of this betrayal, is nothing short of remarkable." He paused, then continued. "The position is yours, if you want it. You've more than proven your capabilities, not just as a professional, but as a person of integrity." I looked at Mr. Johnson and the board members, my voice steady as I spoke. "Thank you. I would be honored to accept the position." The aftermath of the revelations at the board meeting unfolded like a whirlwind. Before I could even catch my breath, the police were involved, and Tom and his mother, Margaret, were taken into custody. The charges? Attempted poisoning. The very thought made my skin crawl. I filed for divorce immediately. After what Tom had done, there was no chance of reconciliation. The proceedings were expedited given the circumstances, and I was granted full custody of Emily. Tom's rights to visitation would be decided after his trial. At work, I settled into my new position as department head. The support from my colleagues was overwhelming. They rallied around me, offering help with my increased workload and understanding when I needed time off for legal meetings or to care for Emily. One afternoon, as I was leaving the office, I received a call from an unknown number. It was Margaret, calling from jail. "Carrie, please," her voice quavered. "You have to help me. I'm an old woman, I can't survive in here. It was all Tom's idea, I swear. I just wanted to help my son. Please, you have to forgive me." I felt a surge of anger. "Forgive you? Margaret, you helped poison me. You endangered not just my health, but Emily's safety too. What if I'd had an accident while driving her to school? Did you ever think of that? But I'm Emily's grandmother, she pleaded. Think of her. She needs me. No, I said firmly. What Emily needs is to be safe from people who would harm her mother. I'm sorry, Margaret, but I can't forgive what you've done. You'll have to face the consequences of your actions. A few days later, I received another call, this time from the police. They had conducted an audit of the pharmacy where Margaret worked, following up on how she had obtained the drugs used to poison me. What they found was shocking. Mrs. Thompson, the detective said, we've uncovered numerous violations at your mother-in-law's pharmacy. There's evidence of illegal sales of prohibited drugs going back years. It seems your case has helped us crack open a much larger criminal operation. As the days passed and more details emerged, I couldn't help but marvel at the irony. Tom's desperate attempt to secure a promotion had not only cost him his job and his family, but it had also exposed his mother's long-standing criminal activities. Their greed and disregard for others had brought their whole world crashing down around them. The trials were set for the coming months. I knew I would have to testify, to relive the betrayal and fear I had experienced. But I was ready. I was no longer the woman they had tried to diminish and control. I was stronger now, more determined than ever to see justice done.